start with those new details emerging about the suspected gunman in the shooting at a Boulder, Colorado grocery store. 10 people are dead. 21-year-old suspect reportedly previously known to the FBI and was linked to another individual under investigation by the Bureau now. Meanwhile, some journalists, activists, and lawmakers are facing backlash for jumping to conclusions on the race of the shooter before his identity had been released, warning it was another white man again. That it was he, most likely a white domestic terrorist. And another saying the shooter was taken into custody, and in other words, it was almost certainly a white man again. A Democratic Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, also faced criticism for this tweet about the gunman's race. Here's what she tweeted. The shooter's race or ethnicity seems front and center when they aren't white. Otherwise, it's just a mentally ill young man having a bad day. Narratives drive our responses to awful crimes committed against innocent people. Pay attention to these responses and who is targeted. However, critics are pointing out that just days earlier, Omar brought up the race of Atlanta mass shooting suspect Robert Aaron Long, who is white. She tweeted this: "It isn't hard to understand why it's so normalized for law enforcement to protect the humanity of white mass murderers and their willingness to continually make excuses for them." Let's get right to the couch. Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, my co-host Emily Campagno, syndicated radio host, and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall is here. And joining us on that virtual couch for the very first time, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi is here. And in the center of that invisible couch, politics and media columnist for The Hill and Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Welcome, everybody. Leslie, you know we're moms, and you and I have talked about this before.
In addition to being a mom, I think I'm the only one on the panel married to a brown Muslim man, and so I have a lot to say about this. One, when the suspect in Boulder, Colorado, was taken out, both video and print did say a white man in cuffs was taken out by police. They weren't sure at the time if it was the suspect. When they found out that he was from Syria, if you just look, just Google what was trending: Islamic terrorism, Islamophobia, Islam, and Muslim. Not everybody from Syria is a Muslim. Not everybody who is Arab is a Muslim. Not everybody who is a Muslim certainly is a terrorist or is linked to ISIS. So there is a jump to conclusion. But I have to say, being someone that has experienced prejudice toward my husband and my children with regard to Islam, Islamophobia, that we do see the shooter was Muslim. We don't see a Christian terrorist. We don't see Christian. We don't see the word Christian. We don't see the word Jewish. We don't see the word Buddhist. The religion is usually Muslim when it is mentioned. I do agree there needs to be more comprehensive legislation directed toward mental illness. There is a consensus in this country, and I think we're going to be talking about the gun issue a bit later, but there is a consensus in this country that if somebody's mentally ill, having guns get into their hand is dangerous. But I think the jumping to conclusion is dangerous because it shouldn't be about the suspect. It should be about the victims. And sadly, in so many of these attacks, we know the name of the shooter. We know the name of the murderer, the perpetrator. We don't always know the name of all the victims, and they're the ones that should be remembered. They're the names that we should be saying.
So fascinating how you reached the same point, but from different points of view.
Welcome back. We are now about 24 hours away from President Biden's first solo news conference since taking office. Today marks 63 days into his presidency and is the longest any modern-day commander-in-chief has gone without holding one. And the pressure is not only on Biden, but also on the White House press corps and what will be a major test for news organizations and reporters in covering the president. Leslie, do you expect the press corps will be respectfully critical and scrutinizing to the degree that Americans deserve tomorrow?
I hope so. I mean, that's their job. That's the one thing I would agree with what that Joe had said. You know, look, one of the things I love when I listen to the BBC and they just really, nail a prime minister, with hard questions. And, there's clearly no political bias, and there shouldn't be. A journalist is there to report the facts so that the people watching or listening or reading can form their own conclusions. Certainly there need to be questions about a plan, about the border, a lot of questions about immigration and the the border, if an executive order is going to be used with regard to gun control after 2 mass shootings in this country. Those are the kinds of questions I certainly hope to hear. I'm not trying to put down the journalists that asked what color Air Force One is going to be, what kind of blue, but I think the American people want that. And speaking of the American people, a Hill Harris poll shows that 52% of Americans don't feel the lack of a press conference has anything to do with or interferes with the transparency in this administration. So I'm glad he's finally having a press conference. I don't believe he's going to be using a teleprompter. I think the questions will be fair, and they should be respectful. If you don't like the person or the party, you need to respect the office of the President of the United States.
Vice President Kamala Harris is about to sit down for a one-on-one conversation on Friday with former President Bill Clinton. The event is being hosted by the Clinton Global Initiative, and the two will discuss the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on women and ideas for empowering women and girls in the United States and around the world. I was saying in the commercial break, I wonder how that conversation is going to go. Will they have participation from the audience? And Leslie.
I don't agree that she's not the best person to be asking about it. Yes, she has not come out with regard to her opinion on Cuomo. I think she'll follow the president's lead on that, which will say the investigation should play out and he should be removed if there is truth in all these allegations. She did believe Tara Reade. She also was one of the first women, when she was a senator, to say that Al Franken should step down. She is the first female vice president in the United States of America, an alumni of the co-sponsor of this event, and of course the Clinton Foundation is Bill Clinton's. So to have these two people at this event, it's not surprising. And honestly, I don't think it's inappropriate, because they're talking about how the pandemic has affected women in this country and empowering girls and women going forward.
Well, I'm sure part of the conversation will talk about domestic violence rates that have spiked because people are inside their homes, and those situations have been made worse, those domestic situations. So no doubt that will come up.
Cancel culture is in overdrive now as sporty cars ignite a PC fight in Austin, Texas. Tenants in a new luxury building are reportedly fed up over car clubs that have been part of the community for decades. One resident calling them a toxic display of masculinity, and another says they harm trees and create noise and noxious odors. All right, guys, I know a little bit about this. I have had a 72 Mach 1 for over 15 years. It's real loud, and there's nothing toxic about that car, nor is it just masculine. It's the great equalizer. Everyone, all different genders and colors and shapes and sizes and cultures, everyone loves my car. It's not just about one group of people that these residents have now made it about. Leslie, your thoughts?
Well, when you bought the unit in the building, you knew the environment and the neighborhood that you were buying into. 1, 2, why do we assume they're all liberals? And 3, my son loves cars. He loves lowriders. He's only 13, but counting the days until he can drive, and he hopes I'll buy him one. But lastly, they could reach a happy medium and say, hey, can you turn the music down a little bit, especially some of the music that might have some bad language? I think they could learn to get along, invite each other over for, lunch, a picnic, a cocktail, and everybody could be happy.
All right, I don't know if that'll work, but we can try.